in Hiawatha, Marshalltown at 95. These are not just a few small samplings of strong winds. Now, this was miles upon miles of just crazy EF1 to EF2 type wind speeds. And so you're getting EF1 to EF2 type damage, except everything's falling in one direction in the motion of the storm, as opposed to the rotating wind where the debris field changes direction depending on where, say, a tornado goes through. You don't have that with this. Everything falls, but it all falls together. And so that's what the National Weather Service survey teams will be out looking for, because there were embedded tornadoes today too. So they'll be looking for where there was straight line wind damage, type debris fields versus rotating wind damage debris fields. Okay, let's follow this along to where we could still have more storms this evening. Severe thunderstorm watch, southern Michigan into Indiana. Severe thunderstorm watch around the St. Louis area, although St. Louis itself is basically in the clear now. That goes until 10. The newest watch also goes until midnight from Paducah to Louisville and everywhere in between. Southern Illinois, southern Indiana, northern and far west portions of Kentucky. It's just a huge line of storms. Look at the curl here. That curl is the top of our bow. It's really fanned out, and at times everyone along this line was getting severe thunderstorm warnings. They're easing up a bit. The models were suggesting they would do so. It looks like that process is continuing. But outside Grand Rapids, there's still a severe thunderstorm warning for you until 8:15. Now, east of Fort Wayne, we're following that same complex that came through you. A couple of different kinks on this line where we can't rule out a spin-up tornado. The primary threat here is going to be, again, straight line wind. So, again, treat this as if it's a tornado warning, because there could be tornado-like damage. This one's still pretty strong. Goes until 8:45. Around Indianapolis, specifically the south side of Indianapolis, everybody's under a warning here because of the line of storms that came through. And now well east of St. Louis towards the Mount Vernon area, but also of note, there's been some flash flood warnings that have popped up. Dent County there in Missouri. I say of note because, gosh, there were all kinds of flash flood warnings yesterday morning in St. Louis. So a 2-day total is now adding up some bigger rains on the east side, thanks to the rain from today. But a lot of this was actually from that event a couple of days ago, and there was flooding. So, my gosh, as if you needed one more thing to worry about, if these storms slow down at all, flash flooding will start to ramp up.
For so many people, this has just become a huge event today, Mark. Boy, we've got good news for you. In a place like St. Joseph, Michigan, the weather has calmed significantly. Last time we visited this camera, it was rocking and rolling, all kinds of huge white caps out there, really turbulent water. No one was out there. Now there are some folks that have actually gone back out and got in the water. So good to see some clearing skies and a little bit of blue in there for a nice sunset tonight. But hopefully you escape without too much damage, because these storms have been so potent today. Just today, roughly 1.3 million customers in the Midwest have lost power. All right, the outages that we have in Connecticut and New York are from last week with Tropical Storm Isaias, but a majority of this number that you see on the map here tonight is all because of storms in the Midwest and the big derecho. Look at a place like Iowa. Started around lunchtime, and the numbers have really ramped up since then. And then you look at Illinois. We have over 500,000 without power here, all happening in a short period of time, a lot of it around the Chicago area. And you can see the numbers are just incredible, happening over about maybe 3 or 4 hours or so. But most of that really happening over the course of about an hour, truly. Where are the storms this evening? Michigan, Indiana, and then curling back down through Illinois and Missouri tonight. The storms are all pushing south and east tonight. You'll still be getting hit pretty hard, we think, in northern Michigan. And then I-75, the storms look like they're breaking up a little bit for you. So hopefully that's good news. And in Cincinnati or Dayton, even over toward Columbus. Storms now heading south. Evansville, Indiana, we get hit eventually into Louisville and Lexington tonight. So I-75 is probably a highway. 65 as well. Highway I would just recommend you stay off of tonight. If you don't have to drive at all, just stay home. Not only do we have that high wind threat, blinding rain that comes with the storms, but there it is, a flood risk, and especially the dark green area, that's the area where flooding is most likely to occur for you, say St. Louis, Louisville, up toward Indianapolis, especially if any of these storms kind of bend back a little bit before they push through. That could add another half inch to an inch to your storm totals. All right, so for Louisville and Lexington, let's time this out for you. Probably by around midnight, things are going to start turn downhill for you here. But then notice there are still storms around 2 o'clock in the morning hitting us here. Lexington, I think we could be in it for a while. Frankfurt as well. So the capital heads up. Here come your storms. And then they're out by the morning hours in much improved weather at that point. But it's just going to be rocking and rolling overnight tonight. Now, tomorrow we get hit. A lot of this could be early in the day, too. And then you could get hit with another round. But Little Rock and Memphis, we're in it. And look at the forecast for Little Rock. Tomorrow we have some evening storms that return for you. And then Wednesday, another shot of storms that comes in. So a couple of different rounds here, Jackie. So be prepared, especially for the winds. But with multiple rounds that come in, flooding also a big issue.
Good point there, Mike, for sure. Let's talk about this derecho and all the damage that has been produced here. You know, things really kind of got kicking around lunchtime today, so we're already dealing with about hour 8 with severe winds and severe damage reports. And this stretches across so many states across the Midwest. It all got started in Nebraska, went across Iowa, went through Illinois, now working its way across Indiana, even getting into parts of Kentucky. So we're talking about more than 600 miles. 600 miles, it fills up the whole screen behind me, of storm damage reports and damaging wind reports as well, gusts over 60 miles per hour. So let's talk about what caused this. This is a derecho, and it might sound like a fancy word. You may have heard it before because it's happened a couple of times, usually at most per year, but a derecho is just a cluster of thunderstorms that turns really intense and causes a lot of damage over a long period of time. As I mentioned, we're into hour like 8 dealing with this. So we get warm, moist air that flows into the thunderstorm. We get cool, dry air that gets pushed out ahead of that thunderstorm, and it sucks up all the energy that's available out ahead of it. So this can really pack some strong winds that are strong to cause as much damage as, say, a tornado would. And that's why we tell you to treat these warnings on a day like today like a tornado warning, because it can be really extensive, and that's exactly what we've been seeing. This has to track for more than 250 miles. We're now over 600. Here's a look at climatology when it talks about frequency for derechos. Happens a little bit more often into some of the plain states, but this can happen across parts of the Midwest. This can go all the way into the Mid-Atlantic. You might remember the powerful derecho in 2011 that went through the Washington, D.C. metro area. So when there's a derecho, when there's the threat of those winds, 90, 100 miles per hour, you get to an interior room of your house. You put as many walls between you and the outside of your home as you possibly can. There's a look at a perfect place where a safe room might be in your home. That might be underneath a stairwell. That might be in a basement if you have a basement. So use those tornado precautions. We did have some advance warning on this today, Mike. So knock on wood, I really haven't seen anything in terms of injuries.
Yeah, hopefully we don't suddenly get a big rash of that. But you're right. That's been the one good thing out of this. Take a look, by the way. That's a look at Ottawa, Illinois. Look at all the trees that are down. I mean, widespread damage all over the place. I'm actually surprised. I'm sick. The basketball pole there is actually cemented into the driveway there. That's good. But look at all the trees that came down, all the leaves and the limbs and everything. A huge cleanup, no doubt. And this is what so many people will be doing over the course of the next several days, just cleaning up the property. You can hear chainsaw after chainsaw after chainsaw. Look at the outages. Boy, really potent derecho here. Look at the outages here in the Midwest. Almost all this 1.5 million is here in the Midwest. Maybe about 100,000 or so of that is here in New York and Connecticut, left over from last week with Tropical Storm Isaias. But this just shows you how potent this was. For a place like Iowa, really all ramped up around lunchtime and came ripping west to east across the state, almost the entire state being affected by it. Illinois, about 600,000 customers now without power. It's all because of the trees, really, if you think about it. 90% of tree roots are shallow. They're not that far beneath the surface because they need to absorb that rainwater to have the roots absorb it, and then the tree drinks. The problem is that soaking rain then, if it's really heavy, we've had a pretty wet year so far in the Midwest, that those roots aren't really holding on as tight as they otherwise would because there's a lot of water in the ground. And then you get a big wind event that comes in, and this one was extreme, folks, with 100-mile-an-hour winds. This is a big top-heavy tree. It's got all the leaves on it. It's the middle of summer, and so it catches a lot of wind, and over it goes a lot easier than it may, say, in the wintertime when it's got snow on it and big wind, where there's no leaves. It's just tree branches, so you don't catch as much wind. Now, the power poles that have gone down are truly designed to protect you and your property, right? So Off the top of the power lines here, power pole gets power lines, high voltage here, thousands of volts of power going through. These little gray knobbies at the top there, those are insulators. They protect the wires from touching each other and touching the pole. These are cross arms here. Those cross arms then go to another cross arm, another pole, another cross arm, another pole. This is how the wires connect between poles. This, one of the more important devices that's on the cross arm. It's called a cutout. And what it's designed to do is basically act like a fuse in your home. When it detects a power surge, it just opens up and cuts the power. And it's an easy fix. It's designed to work almost exactly how it's designed, because you get a surge in there, you get an arcing power line, it protects that voltage from coming into your home. Linemen will come along, they've got a big hot stick, in essence they call it, and they just click it back into place and the power will be turned back on. Lightning arresters right in here basically diffuses the electricity from a lightning strike to protect the equipment that's on the pole. And this big rectangle that you see right here, that's the transformer, folks. So what that does is it steps down the voltage from the high power lines, high voltage lines, to a low voltage into your home. So it's usable voltage into your home. That's full of oil, all right? And what that does is it's hit maybe by a lightning bolt, or maybe you've seen this all the time on TV. You hear, oh, look at the sparks fly. A transformer just blew. Transformers don't really blow. You don't see sparks fly at the transformer. It's full of oil, so it'll flame, if anything else. When you see the sparks that fly, that's usually the cutout that's been tripped, or on these power lines that are up here, these high voltage lines, it's usually a piece of debris hitting it, like a tree limb or something like that. Tree limb hits those power lines, Mark, guess what happens? The cutout opens off, and then you're out of power then. So
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think that's a lot of people right now that went through that exact thing. So at least now you know why power has been out across the communities because of the, but at least you're safe, right? Those things are doing what they are designed to do, and that is to keep you safe, even if you lose power. Now, we know there will be more storms and more power loss tonight. Severe thunderstorm watch until midnight in the lower Michigan, southern Michigan, until including into Indiana and portions of Ohio. A little bit of an extension on that. New watch just came out for the rest of western Ohio. Goes until 1 a.m. Eastern, but still 12 a.m. Central. Kind of fills in the gap there that was there. And then we also have this large watch. That goes until midnight Central Time as well, including northern Kentucky. This is all in place because of a complex of thunderstorms that have moved on through. I will say that not much more into Ohio will likely be put into watches, because there's just not as much instability for the storms to work with. There's a pretty good sign that storms going this way are going to fizzle out. However, there's a lot of instability down towards the south, plus a little bit of the help. This is a little trough that has formed, a little kind of small stretch down area of low pressure. That's enhancing the storms here. So this complex headed towards Louisville and this complex headed towards Paducah has a little bit more staying power. So that's next on our radar, what we'll be watching over the next hour or so. Max. No. Max. Max. Max.
Dogs don't know